As Indiana basketball hosts Morehead State, it's time to recover from the last two losses.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome into the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you making Locked On Hoosiers your first listen each and every day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every single day. Shout out to the everydayers. You are the reason we are here. If you're not an everydayer, you should become one. We're having a lot of fun here on Locked On Hoosiers. We post every single weekday on your YouTube or on any of your podcasting platforms. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. If you are on YouTube, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. We are on the way to 2,000 subscribers. We are over that 1,500 mark. And look, folks, we just continue to climb, and you are a major reason for that. So thank you so much. I'd love for you to be a part of that as well. Here on the show today, we're going to preview Indiana basketball as they host Morehead State, a start of a three-game stretch against teams that, let's just be honest, Indiana should win and should win easily. Doesn't mean they will. And doesn't mean you should just play these games and not work on anything and not figure anything out. So that's what today's episode is about. We'll jump right into it. Mike Woodson and the Hoosiers hosting Morehead State, a team that is 8-3. Okay, a team that has played some big-name teams, played some big-name programs, just haven't done a whole lot with it, right? They started out the season playing what was then a top 25 Alabama team. They got ran out of the gym. They gave up 105 points in that game. They've got a game against number 3 Purdue. They also got ran out of the gym on that game. And they do have a game against Penn State, and they lost that one 74-51. And folks, that's not a good Penn State team. So what do we know about this Morehead State team? Well, they are 8-3 overall. Their schedule is not great. They can score against maybe some lesser opponents. I mean, they have one game of 94 points this year. They do have a game with 61 and a win somehow. They have scored in the 80s their last couple of games, and they are coming off of a 102-point performance against a team that doesn't even have a logo when you look at it on ESPN. So take that for what you will. But here's what I will say. They're on a 6-game winning streak. Okay. This is a team that is maybe starting to figure it out. I know they're not playing high-level competition by any means, but they have a 6-game winning streak, which I think you have to respect here, right? You have to respect that in today's college basketball because, man, go look around the country. It's drunk. It's broken. College basketball is nuts right now. And no, none of their wins are great. I mean, the best one is Chattanooga, Austin Peay, North Alabama, a team that Indiana is going to be playing very soon in this 3-game stretch. So, I mean, you can go look at that. You go watch the film on that if you want. So I pulled up some of the highlights. It's not the sexiest game you're ever going to watch. So be ready for that. But what does this Morehead State team have? What do they do? What makes the Eagles an interesting team, right? Well, they have a couple of guys. They have multiple guys, believe it or not, that actually score in double digits. And you look at that, and you have their guard, Minix, which is a really cool name, right? That's a really cool name. He averages 17.5 points per game. You have Lathan, who averages 12.5 points per game. You have Thelwell, who averages 12 points a game, and Thomas, who averages 11 points a game. They're all listed as guards, which is really, really weird. And you start looking at the height of this team and kind of what they're going to be playing on the floor. They're not all that big. They've got some big guys. They've got 6'7", 6'9", 7 foot, 6'7". They have some tall guys. Heck, they even have a 6'10" guy on the team. But of the guys that play, they're not all that big. So Indiana should have no problem lengthwise against this team tonight. Now, you look past those 4 guys that score double digits, there's a pretty big drop off. You do have a guy in another guard that scores 8 points a game, but other than that, it's a huge drop off. And that tells me a couple of things. It tells me this team is going to rely on their starters heavily. Look at the minutes numbers. Those 4 guys that average double digits, they average 30 minutes a game or more, except one who averages 26 minutes. So these guys are going to play a long time. And, you know, we've talked a lot about Indiana in that regard, right? Whether they needed to play their starters more. And I think in bigger games, yeah, absolutely. But in a game like this, we hope that Indiana starters don't have to play that long. Looking at some of the shooting numbers for you guys to kind of break this thing down, they average 41 rebounds a game, which is actually pretty good. They crash the glass quite a bit. And Minix is the guy, their leading scorer, who's also their leading rebounder, right? We talked about this yesterday on the women's side for Indiana. If you have somebody who's averaging or leading your team in points and rebounds, it's good for that person. And you know that's somebody you have to keep an eye on. So they rebound pretty well, especially for being a guard-heavy team. I think some of these guys, when you watch them, they don't really look like guards because they're taller, but they're listed that way, so whatever. We'll give them credit there. They also turn the ball over quite a bit. They turn the ball over 14 times a game. So Indiana can absolutely take advantage of that, right? Indiana did that pretty well against Kansas. Turned the ball over. Turned them over, I should say. And when they did, good things happened. Can we establish that good things happen to this Indiana team when they turn the other team over, when they get out and run, when they get those easy buckets where they don't have to stand in the half court and develop a play and run a play and hope that it works, right? Let this team run and get those easy buckets. That's where Trey Galloway was just absolutely living on Saturday against Kansas. And that's what gets him going. And we're going to talk about him in a little bit as well. As a team, though, this Morehead State team, they shoot the ball pretty well. And again, I know the competition hasn't been great. And you go look at their numbers against the Alabamas and the Purdues of the world, not great. But as a team, they shoot 48%. 68% from the line, which is pretty good. Those guards shoot well, right? 86, 79, 81. Indiana cannot afford to start fouling these guys, and they shoot 37% from downtown. A couple of guys are over 42%, 44%. Like, they've got some guys that can shoot. Another one at 36, 38. So what that means for the Hoosiers defensively, unlike they did against Kansas, because I think the Hoosiers did a really good job defending the 3 against Kansas. I think they gave up some, sure, but they did a much better job than they have been over the last few games. The Hoosiers cannot afford to give up threes because this is one of those teams, like we saw early on in the year with Indiana against some of these smaller opponents. You give them open threes, they are going to make them. Right? They're a team that is fine shooting a bunch of threes. They shoot a lot of them per game. And if you give them open looks, if Indiana loses guys in communication, loses guys on switches, Morehead State will make you pay. So what that means is Indiana has to continue their defensive level, their intensity, their effort, all those things we've talked about. They have to continue to do that. And look, I'm not worried about Gabe Cupps if he does end up being the starter, which I assume that's going to be the thing. I haven't seen anything as of this, as of the time we sat down and recorded this. So I'm not worried about him on defense. I'm really not. He has proven to me everything that I needed to see, that he can hold his own against an 18-point per game score, right? We just saw it this weekend. We've seen it numerous times. I'm not worried about him. Trey Galloway, not worried about him defensively. He gave good effort on Saturday. Galloway's more on the offensive end, which we'll talk about in our keys to the victory coming up in a second. So, look, Morehead State can be a dangerous team. They can score a lot of points, but Indiana's length is going to be a huge issue here for them. It's going to be a massive issue. If the Hoosiers can crash the board, win the rebounding battle, not give up threes against a team that takes a lot of them, I think we're going to be just fine. And we'll get into some more of that coming up in a second when we look down and look at our keys to the victory, but wanted to kind of give you an insight on that Morehead State team. They turn the ball over a lot, they'll shoot the ball a lot, and they rebound quite a bit. So keep that in mind when you watch the game tonight. And we'll talk about some keys to victory coming up on Locked On Hoosiers in just a second. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain the vehicle, your vehicle, and level it up to peak performance for superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. So you're covered. You may as well try it out. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need and the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Well, thank you so much for making Locked On Hoosiers your first listen each and every day, and wanted to let you know that we are now available on Amazon and Fire TV, all that good stuff. You can watch us on your television if you want to with Locked On Hoosiers. So try it out, check it out. If you're watching the YouTube version, be sure you like and subscribe on the video, and you can now watch us on your TV as well. I mean, who else's face would you not want on your television, right? Just kidding. But no, be sure you try it out if you're interested in that. But as we get into some keys to victory for Indiana against Morehead State, you are home, right? You've got a good stretch of home games here. You're coming off the bad loss against Auburn. You're coming off the tough loss against Kansas. We talked on the show a lot yesterday about having to learn from that loss. And that's why today's episode title was to recover, right? Time to recover if you're Indiana. And what do I mean by that? Move on, right? Move on. You've got two tough games out of the way. You know you didn't win them, but as I said yesterday, I think you learned a lot, and I think you played your best game on Saturday. So it's time to recover, and it's also time to maybe take a breather, right? You've played some big-name teams. You played some tough games over the last couple of weeks. Enjoy a Morehead State. Enjoy North Alabama when you play them in this stretch as well. Like, enjoy these games a little bit and maybe find your love again for this game, because look, Indiana was having a lot of fun Saturday. You could see it from the fans to the coaches to the players. Most importantly, they were really enjoying this game and having a lot of fun. So you can do that in these games, and that's honestly one of my keys to victory here is go out and enjoy this game. And look, give yourself a chance to do that by dominating early. If you can come out and play your brand of basketball, right? Work it inside, let Kel'el Ware, Malik Reneau, Mackenzie Mgbako do their thing, get their double-digit points, get close to double-digit rebounds, especially with Kel'el Ware. Work it inside. There is no reason to overthink this game. Don't overthink the game plan here if you're Mike Woodson offensively. Do what you do best. Do what you are good at. Go inside. Let Kel'el Ware show his finesse. Let Malik Reneau be physical. And hey, I love Mackenzie Mgbako shooting the basketball. His confidence is really, really high, and it continues to grow. I know we were kind of hard on him early, but we knew it was coming, right? We knew it was going to come. It just took a little time, and here we are. And I think there's a lot of confidence in him from Mike Woodson, this coaching staff, and I think his team as well. I mean, they drew that play up for him on Saturday near the end of the game to try and hit that three to keep him in the ball game. So I think that shows a lot about where he is right now from a skill level to a confidence level and everything in between. So let those guys be your go-tos. And with Trey Galloway, all we can hope is that he continues to play well, right? He continues to be aggressive. That's the big thing for me. Man, when he flips it on and is aggressive, he is the best player out there. I think you can see that. Well, one of the best. But when he's just kind of and going with the flow, running up and down, not super aggressive, not super involved. Offensively, it leads to him being uninvolved defensively, which leads to defensive breakdowns, and you know how that all goes. So I think that's another key. If he's hot again and he's feeling it, get him the basketball. There is no other thing you should do. I know I just talked about play inside, but you can use playing inside to get him open looks. And if he's knocking those down, you work from the inside out. It's basic basketball, folks. Basic basketball. Indiana is much more talented, much more skilled, much better coached. You've got everything going for you in this game. You should not have any worries. And then, as I said yesterday, this is not a key to victory. This is just a key for Indiana. Get your bench in. You've got to get these guys some experience because Lord knows they need it. I mean, they do. They need it. And look, I think the bench was playing a lot better early on, and maybe that's because they were playing lesser competition. I don't know. But we remember when the starters were struggling, and there's a couple games where the bench saved this Indiana team, right? We remember that. But here's the thing. You've got to get these guys involved again because the performance has not been there. I'm talking about, look, not even Anthony Walker, who I would like to see even be more aggressive, right? Because he is really, really talented. But CJ Gunn and Caleb Banks, right? Who seems to be the first one in when the sub comes in. That's how it was Saturday. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was Caleb Banks who got subbed in first against Kansas. But Peyton Sparks, Anthony Leo, like, those guys have to be impactful for this Indiana team to make a run this season. There are very few teams, and Kansas is one of them, that can rely basically on just their 5 starters. And that's impressive. Credit to them. Indiana's not there. They're not going to be there, I don't think, for a long time. And that's not a good long-term way to win basketball in this game. But get the defense in. Get the subs in, get the subs in, get the backups in, got to get them going a little bit. And hopefully we get Xavier Johnson back soon. That'd be really, really big. Hopefully we can get him back. And I know that doesn't have a whole lot to do with this game in particular, but all of that works together, right? It all works together. Overall, for this game against Morehead State, I'm not worried about it. I hope Indiana treats it like it's another big game. I hope they come out firing. I hope they come out ready to play and prepared. I hope they give the fans something to cheer about. I hope the fans show up. I know we will. I know Indiana is going to be there in Assembly Hall and cheer on this team and not give up. And that's what I ask of you as well, right? Don't give up on this team. Don't give up on this season. It's December, right? It's middle to late December. There's a long way to go in this season. I don't think this team has given up. I don't think Mike Woodson has given up. And so I'm asking you to not do that either. And I think this should be the start of a good 3-game winning streak before Indiana, the men, get into conference play. Well, coming up here on Locked On Hoosiers, I want to start a new segment, something we haven't done yet, but I think could be a lot of fun and could be really, really interesting. It's called What the Fans Say. And we're going to look at our YouTube comments. So if you're on YouTube and you are active in the comments, talking about previous games and asking questions and stuff, I want to go to you, almost like a mailbag type of thing, but not a direct mailbag, if that makes any sense. Want to go to our video and our episode after the Kansas loss and talk about what some of the Indiana fans were saying. Hey, even some Kansas fans were in the comments as well. So I want to have that segment coming up. I think it could be really interesting and a lot of fun. So that's what we'll do coming up in just a second on Locked On Hoosiers. Welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. I appreciate you making this your first listen each and every day. Before we get into what the fans say, I want to remind you that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On Plus, our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Look, I tune in at least once a day just to see what's going on, just to see who's there. You've got the NBA, you've got NHL, NFL, all of college shows. I mean, it's literally everything 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on YouTube. It's the only one like it. So go check it out. Locked On Sports Today. Drop them a subscription. They would greatly appreciate it. Well, I want to start a new segment on the show. All right, I want to start a new segment. I want to see how it goes. It's called What the Fans Say. And we're going to go to our YouTube comments. So again, if you're on YouTube and you're commenting on here, would love to hear what you have to say, would love to see what you're thinking, right? And if you're on audio, we can do this via social media as well, via X. So be sure you go and follow us on there at Locked On Hoosiers. We'll try to do both. But for this first segment, we're going to stick to the YouTube comments. And these are on our last episode, the post-game reaction show from over the weekend, the Indiana and Kansas game. And I want to do this because you guys have some interesting things to say, and you guys have some really interesting takes. And I love having the engagement in our YouTube comments. So we'll start by this big comment. This is actually from a Jayhawk fan, right? I said we've had multiple Kansas fans in the comments. Let me say this. After the Auburn game, in the pregame show, like our kind of our preview show, that's the word I was looking for, preview show, and in our post-game show, our reaction show, we had all kinds of Auburn fans in the comments. So shout out to them. And I love seeing other fans reach our podcast. Isn't that kind of cool, right? Isn't that cool that we have other fans here, a part of our family here, a part of our community, and engaging? I think it's really, really cool. So I'm going to read this one. This is from Mike Morgan, 5015. All right, he says, I'm a lifelong Jayhawk fan. This was a terrific, if not so well played or officiated, quote, really bad game. He said Galloway was playing out of his mind. For some reason, our opponents will regularly have one or two unexpected players have career nights. He said this was no different. He goes on to say, great fans, great atmosphere. He said, I thought Dickinson was horrible on help defense, allowing Galloway to make layup after layup. He said, when Kansas went up 5 with about 2.5 left, I thought IU might crumble. Not so much. Mike goes on to say, they kept up the fight and kept getting it back to one possession, giving them a legit chance to win till the very end. Good luck and stay healthy. So thanks so much to Mike Morgan, 5015 on the YouTube comments. Look, great things there from a Kansas fan that was observing this game. And I think he's right about Dickinson. I think Dickinson was very timid on the defensive end until late, where he really started to get going offensively, which let him become effective defensively. And I'll say this, I wouldn't say Galloway, it was an unexpected career night, maybe unexpected in this season, but we know how good he can be. We know how important and how much of a factor he is this season. Yeah, absolutely. That was very much unexpected because we haven't seen that yet. He has one other game that was close this year, and he did have a career night. And overall, I think this was Indiana rising up to the occasion and playing their best game of the year against a really, really good Kansas team. And there was another Kansas fan. There's multiple Kansas fans in the comments, but this person said, this was Mr. Monkey says, KU fan here, says Kansas and Indiana should play regularly. Good luck the rest of the season. Has a bunch of likes, has a comment from an Indiana fan that says, I second that. Most fun game all year. I'm with that. I am all about that. Indiana and Kansas playing on a regular basis? Absolutely. Wouldn't we love to see home and homes again with big name teams? I know we've got the Kentucky series coming up finally again, but wouldn't it be awesome if we could do this every year? Like next year, Indiana goes to Allen Fieldhouse and then Kansas comes back to IU to Bloomington to play in Assembly Hall. Like, that is what college basketball is about, right? Look, we're excited about the Morehead State game tonight, but are we fully excited, right? Like, we kind of know, I'll say this, if Indiana plays like they're supposed to play tonight, should be an easy win for the Hoosiers. That atmosphere on Saturday was electric. It was awesome there at Assembly Hall. Like, people talked about it across the nation. So, yeah, these are the fun games in college basketball, right? The fact that you've got Alabama playing Purdue and you've got North Carolina and Kentucky. I know they play a lot in that CBS Sports Classic, but those are the games in non-conference play that make college basketball fun, and also what makes teams better. Like that, those are the games you learn about your team and get better more than a 25-point blowout on a Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday, whatever night of the week, right? So good to see some Kansas fans in the comments. Somebody said, this was Sean Smith, 1385, again on the YouTube comments on our Heartbreaker episode, the post-game show on Saturday here on Locked On Hoosiers, says, Gallo is a beast. Nobody on our bench should get his minutes. Our bench is trash. Seriously. That is a reference back to a while ago, a few weeks ago, when I had made the comments, and I backed him up at the time, that I was calling for Galloway to not get as many minutes because he wasn't producing, right? He wasn't producing the way he should have or should be producing, like we saw on Saturday, right? So here's what I'll say to that. I wouldn't say the bench is trash. I would say the bench needs to produce more, right? The bench has to be better. There's no doubt about that. And if Galloway wants to play more consistently like that, yeah, you will be just fine, and you will not see his starting role go anywhere. I don't think you will anyway. But I think what that comment says from a lot of Indiana fans is it's about time, right? We've been waiting on that Trey Galloway to show up, and I hope that he remains. This is from another Indiana fan, from Captain Nair. He says, I believe Mike Woodson plays to his competition. If this game was at Kansas, then IU would have been blown out by 30, and he wouldn't have given a darn like IU's previous game at Atlanta playing Auburn. He says, I love Trey Galloway's passion and heart for the game. He says this game was an abnormality for him. He says, I'd love for him to drop Michael Jordan 30-point numbers every game, but he says the next game he'll get us about 12 as usual. He said also Gabe Cupps is the new Galloway and will need to put up points soon for production. To that, I'll say I hope not in the form of Trey Galloway, right? I hope that he doesn't take a step back. And look, he may do it for a game and we may all flip out and say, oh, there's the Trey Galloway. I don't think so. I think this will be a performance that unlocks him, kind of gets him going this year. And I hope so, because that's what Indiana needs right now. You saw, again, when he plays that way, you see what happens, right? I like his comments about Gabe Cupps as well. He's going to have to put up some points for production. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. I think that Cupps has played well as a true freshman, got thrown into the fire with the injury to Xavier Johnson, and I think he held his own against the number 2 team in the country. Did he play perfect? No, not by any means, but he is going to have to start scoring because Indiana, they're having to rely on their starters right now. As much as I don't want that to be the case, they're having to do that. So he will have to put up points. Does he need to put up 30 points like Galloway? No, absolutely not. But is it too much to ask for 8 to 10? Is that too much? I don't know. Is that too much to ask of him? Maybe not. That's what X was doing, right? That's what we expect him to do, is drop double-digit points. And obviously, there's a huge difference between your 6th-year point guard and a freshman. But overall, I don't mind Captain Nair's comments there on that. So this person says, difference was in the paint. They beat us at our game. They did get a little help from the guys in stripes. I have given you my opinions on the officiating in that game. I think it was horrible both ways. I think it affected the flow, and I do think it negatively impacted Indiana more than it did Kansas because the Hoosiers had momentum the entire time, and then officiating, foul trouble, all that stuff, and it just threw the whole rhythm off. And look, Kansas is in a better spot to handle that rather than Indiana. But I think Indiana held their own in the paint until late when Dickinson kind of got going. So look, great comments from you guys. Keep doing that. I love seeing those. I think we're building something really special here at Locked On Hoosiers. So on each video Comment what you think. Comment, give me your thoughts, your opinions, especially about tonight's game against Morehead State. Score predictions, thoughts, opinions, agree, disagree with me. Let it rip. I want to see them in the YouTube comments. Or if you're on audio, go and follow us on X at Locked On Hoosiers. That's LO_Hoosiers. Drop your stuff there as well. I would love to see your interaction as we continue to grow to 2,000 subscribers on YouTube, and our audio numbers are killing it as well. So as we get closer to the Christmas holiday, we have another game this week. We'll have more episodes coming out. We have the early signing day coming up on Wednesday tomorrow. So excited for that as well. And then again, I mentioned this, I think yesterday, we will have some Christmas wish list like episodes, and we'll have maybe a New Year's wish list and resolution list or something fun like that here on the show. But shout out to the everydayers. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. You're the reason that we do this. And a reminder to go and check out Locked On Sports Today on YouTube. You can go and find that on YouTube and give them a subscription as well. So until next time, Hoosier fans, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.